Welcome to the Tricord Advisors podcast. This is where we answer your questions to help you get excited about your finances. This is Randy Barkley, and I'm Jeremiah Lee. We're both certified financial planners, and I'm also a California licensed attorney.
So I had a conversation with a child of a client here this week. She said, and we were talking about her mother-in-law, because her mother-in-law is very ill and towards the end of her life. But then all of a sudden the conversation switched, and she said, I saw my portfolio go down in my retirement account, so therefore I cut back on my contributions. And I went, paused. I said, how old are you? Well, I'm 45. I said, no, you increase it and you invest more. And she goes, and you could almost see that. And it's what people do to hurt themselves, I guess, is the best thing. And I think what we want to do is pivot into these things. You got to develop a strategy and don't walk away from it just because the market doesn't agree with everything.
That's absolutely right. And that's great. We just talked about the last 10 years, the next 10 years, what might be. But the question is, what do I do?
Right.
I'm not looking at 1 year. I'm not looking at 6 months. I'm looking for a long-term, the next decade. What should I do today? And part of it is stay in there, keep investing. If you're young in that age, if you're in your 40s, that's the moment that you're still planting seeds. You've used the farmer analogy before. You're putting these seeds in the ground, you're covering them, you're watering them. It's not the moment to say, oh, it's a sunny day or it's a storm, pull the seeds out of the ground.
Yeah, you can't do that, right?
Right. You gotta get through the storms knowing that you're here to have a harvest.
So again, it comes back to, what do you do? And again, I think we keep hammering this, we keep hitting this nail. Have a plan. And have a strategy. Have a plan that will allow you to go back to and say, what does my plan say? And that's what we do with our clients, is we develop a plan, right?
Yeah. And we're working on the long term. And the only way to drive somewhere, to hike somewhere, to accomplish something is to have a clear plan. So 10 years, what are you going to do? Plan. Step one, get an emergency fund. Yep. We've harped on this with a lot of clients. And it's just such key. If an emergency comes up and you have to either liquidate assets you didn't want to, sell a house, sell a home, beg and borrow from friends, it throws your whole plan into disarray. So in order to be able to stay on your path and be able to complete your plan, you need an emergency fund. An emergency fund is 3 to 6 months of your expenses. So if, say, you made $80,000 a year, your expenses,
we consider your basic expenses.
Your basic stuff. So maybe you need $50,000 is your annual spending, perhaps. So then you want 25 or so to be in an account. Now that doesn't feel great. People say it's not doing anything for me, but that's what allows you to be appropriately aggressive with your other money. So to have that money sitting in a savings account, a money market account, something very stable and fairly liquid is step one. And Gordon Ramsay does great with this to say, if you don't have a savings fund, put $100 in it. Mm-hmm. If you have $100, put $1,000 in it. It doesn't have to get to the goal. And if that goal seems daunting, start small, because that little bit of emergency funds, even your tire blows out. I know you had a blowout this last week. If you have a tire that goes out, you might have to swipe a credit card at the place, but you don't have to carry that debt and work it into your budget over time. You want to be able to take the emergency fund and say, oh, that was an emergency, paid for.
That's what it's there for.
That's what it's there for.
That's what it's there for.
So if you don't have it, you'll get stuck. So number one, get an emergency fund. 2, create a plan. And it doesn't have to be a full, complex plan that we build wonderful plans. I think they are phenomenal. I think everyone should have one. But if you don't have that, you should at least get an idea of where you want to go. Do you want to retire? Do you want to retire early? Do you want to travel later?
I mean, again, just as simple as knowing, okay, how much money do I need at my retirement date?
Yeah. What's my number?
Yeah. What's my number? So you're going to have Social Security. And I don't want to hear any feedback about, will Social Security still be there? Yes, it will be. I can promise you Social Security will be there. The question is, how much other monies will you have?
Yeah.
Now, if you don't have a pension at work, you ought to know how much money you have to have accumulated. And that's a pretty easy number to get to. And it works back to how much you should be contributing into your retirement plan, how much you should be setting aside.
So having a plan, and I think to your comment, a real plan has real numbers. It's not just hey, I'm planning to go for it.
Right.
I think the military talks about it, planning to fail. If you don't have a good plan, you're planning to fail.
Right.
To have a good plan, a plan that works for your life. And that's my favorite part of this job, is when we put together a plan for someone, they look at it and say, wow, I would love that. This is what I want to do. And I see how the numbers are going to get us there. Then we drill down to action steps. Say, okay, start contributing this, start doing this.
Right.
And we do it. So number one, get an emergency fund. Number 2, build an actual plan of where you want to get to, how you're going to get there, what the numbers
are. What's the timeline?
Yeah,
so if you're 45 years of age and you want to try at 65, maybe the retirement date is not going to be 65, maybe it's going to be 63, or maybe it's going to be 70.
Mm-hmm.
You may look at the numbers and go, oh, I'd rather have that than that. So then you become part of that. You help design it, right?
Yeah, you have to build a plan. So you build that plan of what you want. And then the third one is start investing and or budgeting. I know budgeting is a dirty word to some people.
It is the most essential part of the plan is knowing how you spend money.
Yeah, because that's how you're going to hit it.
Right.
By investing and budgeting is how you're going to achieve this plan. I think everyone has had that experience where you get to the end of the month and you say, where did my money go?
Mm-hmm.
I know I made good money. I know I did some things, but I thought I would have more at the end. Where did it all go? And that usually is the leakage in the budget. So in order to really hit your plan, you have to have a reasonable budget, not one that's aspirational.
Right.
Spend, eat top ramen for a month, but to say, this is what I really spend. And this little extra wiggle room, I want this to be my investment to move forward. And so first the budget, and the other part is the investing. Often these plans do not work if you just put the money into savings.
Yeah, most people, when they invest, if they're too young and they don't have a lot of experience, they have a tendency to be overly conservative.
Yeah.
So they have a tendency to go into what I call safe money. Safe money will never, ever bring you the results that you need in order to be truly financially independent.
Yeah.
We have a wonderful system here in the United States in that you can invest your money. And now, most people, that's very scary. That's a very fearful thing. But that's where we come alongside of you. We have some of the best minds in the world that we interface with to help people make smart decisions about what they're going to be buying.
That's right. And some people, when they think about investing, they think of gambling.
Right.
I'm going to throw it in there. It's either zero or it's a lot. We're going to figure it out. And a lot of people who jumped in the last couple of years, meme stocks or some of the crypto, that's what they're looking for, a quick turnaround.
Yeah, they're gambling.
Yeah, that's not what, when I think of investing, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about purposeful long-term growth of your assets. And that is, buying quality companies like, Microsoft is a great example. I read somewhere, I think it was over 300 million computers have their Microsoft Office.
Right.
I'm not sure what the numbers are, but it was a massive number. But they're saying they're a company who provides quality products that are
ongoing,
that are well adopted.
Right.
They are not going to fold up tomorrow. They're going to continue to grow and develop, and winners and losers, yes, but they're a great company. So in getting a budget, we just talked about that, investing, and someone who's in their 20s, you need to be investing aggressively, not aggressively in the gambling sense, not crypto, but in a sense of having a growth-oriented portfolio.
Yeah, and the other side know this, and I think tax planning is a big part of what we do, and that is if you pay a lot in taxes, if you don't have enough write-off, of course, contributions into your retirement plan is held as a tax deduction. I mean, I don't want to use this space to talk about a Roth conversion or things like that, but taxes are going up in 2025, most likely because the tax advantages that were passed during the Trump administration are set to expire in 2025. And another key item that you need to talk about, because that's down your professional alley, and that is prepare a will, estate plan.
Yeah, estate planning.
Yeah.
Right. People who don't have anything in place, we come across this on a regular basis. Usually it's the children of a parent who has passed away, and it can be such a mess. And it leaves the next generation, with all these questions and having to figure this out. But it also takes a plan that maybe was a very good plan, and it doesn't cement it as a legacy. And part of an estate plan is taking your plan, what you want for yourself and for your kids, and really putting on some guide rails to say, even if I don't survive, even if something happens to me, this plan, this future I see for my family, it can continue. And it can continue reasonably easily, without having to get tied up in probate for years, without having large fights amongst the family. So if you don't have an estate plan, it's vital that you get that in place. And it doesn't have to be complex. It could be a will, it can be a trust, and they're not that hard, but you get them established, and it provides certainty to your plan.
And this is something that you don't want to just hit a button and kind of do it on your own, so to speak. Again, that's where our office can really come alongside you and help you. And we can save you money, honestly, with the formation of some of these things. It's really important to have somebody who understands do you have this kind of trust or this kind of a will, or what's the durable power of attorney? We see a lot of things where people don't complete the plan.
Yeah.
The strategies.
So this has been, we're talking about 10 years. What do you do? Get an emergency fund, build a plan, budget and invest appropriately, and get an estate plan. I mean, that's a good marching orders for anybody. Yeah.
This is January of 2023. The question is what are you going to look like in January of 2030 or 2033, right?
If you missed any part of this episode, you can catch us on YouTube, or you can go to our website, retirementunlimited.com.